Hello, welcome to WD18, the Watford fan channel. My name is Jacob Coleshaw. I'm delighted I'm joined by Mr. Sam Yuko to discuss a bit of breaking news coming out of Watford today that Ryan Andrews, one of our own, has committed his long-term future to the club, putting pen to paper on a new 4.5-year contract, which takes him to 2028. We'll also be discussing Andrew French's article released today, which doesn't paint the club in a great light about the some transfer business over the last couple of windows, and then we'll look ahead to Leicester tomorrow. Sam, first off, mate, how are you getting on? You okay?
I'm all good, thank you. Yeah. Make sure to check out last week's video from the tier list as well, because that's really split opinion over the last week on social media, it seems. But that was great fun. Looking forward to heading up to Leicester tomorrow. It'll be a difficult game, but will be enjoyable nonetheless. But yeah, I'm all good, and looking forward to getting into. We haven't done one of these in a while, where we just sort of talk through Watford news, not off the back of a match. So if you enjoy this sort of content, maybe we can look at doing it a bit more regularly as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think the great thing about these sort of videos is it gives us sort of instant reaction to pieces of news like that. And I have to say, Sam, just on Andrews' contract, I was delighted when I saw it this morning. I think we all knew when Watford put the little teaser out of the hand with the pen and the paper. You could tell by the tattoo on Andrews' hand that it was him. And I think it's only positive, really, Sam. I don't think there's any real other feeling I got from it. The fact that an academy graduate who's made his debut at Reading in the FA Cup, which feels like a long time ago, has now established himself as one of the first team players. And I think we'd all said, Sam, about how we needed to get him locked into a contract, didn't we, with him only having an option of a further year at the end of this season. So just your feelings and thoughts on this news being announced today.
100% on so many levels. I think you nailed it. There are no negatives with this. It's such positive news. Seeing a Watford player come through, one of our own, we haven't had someone who's really broken in and made an impact on the first team like Andrews has done in a while, to be fair, probably in 5-10 years. So really, really positive. He's just gone from strength to strength since he's come into the side. Every game he's improving. Every game, you can tell he's becoming more experienced, more knowledgeable. I think credit to Chris Wilder for putting him in as well and trusting him. I think you have to give credit to Chris Wilder for that. But I think we've really seen a new side to his game this year under Valérien Ismaël. Obviously, there are moments where he could improve, particularly with his decision making and his final ball, but that will come with time. He's such a young player, and the fact that we're going to have time now to see him develop into hopefully what will become a fantastic footballer who will go on to have a great career both for his club and also internationally for England as well. He's now in the setup for that. So really, really exciting. And particularly, we've just got the news now as well of Jeremy Ngakie's injury. And like you say, come the end of the season, he'd have had a year left on his deal. So I just wonder if we hadn't have got this lockdown, we would have heard some rumours flying about on Andrews' future come January. We don't have Jeremy Ngakia for a few months. So we've got that right back spot locked down, and hopefully Andrews can also stay injury free for the rest of the season.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it didn't look good for Jeremy Ngakia. It seems he had surgery on his ankle, so he's going to be out for a little while. But just back on to Andrews, as Sam said, joined Watford back in 2012 as an under-9. Watford born, made 12 appearances for Watford this campaign. He scored his first goal against Birmingham this season as well. And it just feels like he's gone from strength to strength in a Watford shirt. And also to add into that, the fact that he's now playing on the England's setup in the men's elite squad, which is the England under-20s, as it was formerly known. He's going to attract interest. And I think, as Sam said, if we didn't get this locked in, then there would have been teams sniffing around, because a young English right back who's got championship experience and is going to be playing more and more this season, it's going to be an attractive proposition. And I think one thing I wanted to mention, Sam, was Charlie's video with his dad, Wayne Andrews. And Wayne had made it very clear that the next step in Ryan's development was to get a contract at Watford. He's finally done that now. What do you think the next step is for Ryan, now looking at it from the outside? Is it just cementing himself as that right-back spot in a Watford shirt?
Yeah, of course. I think it has to be baby steps for someone of that age, just signing a new long-term deal at his boyhood club. I think it's a case now, obviously the Ngakia injury will help, but making sure he's starting every week, getting consistency in there, constantly learning as well, learning from mistakes, learning from what he does well. it's all cliche, but I think if he's able to take it slowly like that, I think we'll have a really, really special player there. I think in the long term, obviously, we want him to stay at Watford, but I think probably in the back of his mind, he's seeing this new contract as it's an opportunity to learn for a good few years. He's a fan's favourite here. And then hopefully he'll be able to kick on to perhaps, I don't know, a top 6 Premier League club in the future. Have a really good career there as well. And ultimately, Watford at the moment is a platform for him to learn that. And I'm all happy for that. And I'm, like I say, I'm really excited to see how he gets on and develops in the next few years.
What's it been about him that has really impressed you, Sam? Because, as you say, Wilder threw him in. It was at a time where actually he was the shining light towards the back end of last season. I think we all wanted the season to end, but he actually put a positive note on what was a disappointing season. And since then, it feels like he's gone from strength to strength. So what has it been about his performances that's really caught your eye and really impressed you and feel like he can become that right back for us?
I think it's the intangibles, to be honest with you, when it comes to Ryan Andrews. I think it's bravery and courage that he shows when he has the ball. Like I mentioned before, I think his final ball could improve because there is, I think at times, it's inexperience ultimately. And I think he perhaps just needs to calm down in the final third. But I think he gets into those positions because he is so brave and courageous with his runs, with his bravery when he goes forward. He's not afraid to overlap whoever's playing on the wing. He's developing a really good relationship with Yasser Asprilla this season, actually, as well. And defensively, I think he looks really good as well. He's never shied away from a challenge. He has met every difficult challenge head on, really. And I don't think he's had many bad games of note, to be fair, as well. So it's just that. I think it's just the bravery and the raw talent that we're seeing here. But I think it's also just the element that he is one of our own. He's broken into the first team and he's been absolutely fantastic since doing so.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing to add about the final ball conversation was, and actually what I think you're right, like we can see Ryan do more, is that pass he did against Rotherham, if you remember. I think was that to Kiembe, that goal?
It was either, I think it might have been Tom Ince, maybe. I'm not sure.
Tom Ince, my bad, yes.
Yeah, there were so many goals towards the end of the game. It was
it was the ball to Tom Ince, and it was such a lovely pass. And I think Ryan knows as well. Like if he can add goals and assists to his game as an attacking fullback, then you know that's probably the one area of his game you think, wow, that could go on, that could take his game to another level. I think one player that I think really benefited from playing a lot of football in the Championship is someone like Max Aarons. If you remember when he was at Norwich, quite a similar player in the sense that he's got that pace, that acceleration, that overlapping runs, the attacking nature of Andrews as well. I do see some similarities there in terms of the way they both play. So yeah, I think he even said it in his official statement today about just adding goals and assists and being involved as much as possible in a Watford shirt. So a really proud day for him, a really proud day for the club to see an academy graduate secure a long-term contract. And yeah, I think we all wish Ryan the best in a Watford shirt. I'm sure everyone's absolutely behind him this season and going forwards. Just moving on to another talking point today, and that was Andrew French's article, which has received a lot of attention from Watford fans. And it was basically on the story of the last Watford January transfer window. And before we came on air today, Sam and I looked at each other and said, wow, that was a bit of a mess, wasn't it? So Sam, for people who haven't read the article, could you maybe summarise what you took away and what you learned from that article? Because it was under Vladimir Ivic, it was under Slavan Bilic at the time. So yeah, just give us an overview of what Andrew said in that.
So it just seemed that last January, in the January transfer window, there were probably 5 people involved in decision makings, which were Gino Pozzo, Scott Duxbury, Gioretta, Ben Manga, and God, am I missing someone there?
I think we said
Mogi Bayat, Helena Costa. There's more than 5. There are so many people involved in the decision making, and Slaven Bilic as well, obviously. And it just seemed that out of all those 8 or 9 people involved, every single person had a different opinion as to who to bring in, who not to bring in. And because of that, it just seemed that nothing got done. We had really good opportunities to sign players who, without doubt, I know it's hindsight, but would have benefited us in re-signing Musa Sissoko, Jed Spence, Garnacho, Palestri, Jake Livermore as well. That was who the article was surrounding. So we ultimately missed out on all those opportunities to sign those players. Slaven Bilic wasn't happy with a lot of the fact that we missed out on a lot of those players. We spent a large chunk of our budget on Joao Ferreira, who we hardly saw and is now at Udinese. So it just seemed it was a bit of a shambles, lack of communication all over the shop with the recruitment team, and it was a really disappointing read. And I think it just sums up why last season was such a shambles. And I think in a way it probably justifies, in a way, why Ben Manga was relieved of his duties. That's not to say Ben Manga was bad at his job. I'm sure wherever he goes, he will do a good job. But like you said, Jacob, the analogy, too many cooks in the kitchen, it's just a recipe for disaster, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you can understand why Manga and Costa, as you say, were moved on. But that's, I think, to be fair to Manga, I think, as we both said before we started today, that didn't mean that he's bad at his job. He's clearly a very talented at what he does in terms of recruitment and in terms of picking out talent, as he proved at Frankfurt. But I think he did later on admit, Manga, that he got it wrong in January for not going for the tried and tested domestic league options. And the signing of Arouge was another one. We mentioned Ferreira there. I remember Bilic came out in his post-match interview saying he wasn't sort of the right back that he wanted.
Well, it turns out as well with Joao Ferreira, it was on the way back from the Swansea game, I think it was, where Bilic was told after we'd lost 4-0 that we weren't signing Jed Spence. And on the journey home from Swansea, he had to Google who Joao Ferreira was because he had no idea who he was. That's according to Andrew's article today. So, yeah.
Makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, I actually thought Joao Ferreira was quite a good technical player, to be fair. I think the one that I still don't get to this day was Arouge. That one was just not a good. I think the one thing you say about Arouge is he just wasn't a Bilic striker. You could tell immediately. And I think the lack of game time that he got and the reluctancy of Bilic to play Arouge probably said it all, really. Who was he playing over Arouge at that time as well? It was Keenan Davis.
Yeah.
But there was Zhao was kind of playing a little bit further forward. It was all over the shop, really. But the point was, and as it was all over the shop in this transfer window, there were a lot of options put forward. There were a lot of options agreed between Gioretta and Bilic, but then it wasn't approved by Manga. Manga and Costa then bring in their own players. And I think to spend £2 million, which was their whole transfer budget, on a right back that Bilic hadn't even heard of, was probably not the smartest of moves. But then even just to add on to that, Sam, William Troost-Ekong was another name that was used quite heavily by Bilic. He was then moved on to Salernitana in Serie A. And then Watford signed Ryan Porteous, which Bilic described as a cosmetic change, which he did receive some criticism for. Then you obviously had in that situation Pollock, Ciaralta, Cabasele were out, so we had to then sign Wesley Hoot, who was then through Mogi Bayat. And then because we didn't have a striker, Britt Asamoah came in. So I think what is summarised for me, Sam, was the lack of strategy that transfer window particularly. I mean, I came away from it thinking, where was the plan here? What was the thinking? I mean, do you just think it was almost internal politics that people were... Manga and Costa had their own idea, Gioretta had his own idea, Bilic had his own idea, and we just had an absolute mess?
Yeah, I think when running a football club, as in from what I've seen and read and that sort of thing, everyone has to be aligned on the same page, or at least the majority has to be on the same page with things. And it just seemed that, let's say there were 10 people around the room in a recruitment meeting, there'd be 10 different opinions there and nothing would ultimately get done. So yeah, just a complete lack of strategy, making it up as we went along, lack of agreement, lack of cohesiveness. And I think in a way that filters down onto the pitch as well, which is why I think we saw last season was such a shambles. If things are messy upstairs, things ultimately filter its way down the stairs and onto the pitch, which we saw. So yeah, really disappointing read. And I'm just hoping, if anything, obviously I'm still disappointed that Ben Manga and Helena Costa got released. But if there is a positive, and the way that Valerian Ismail's been speaking as well, hopefully things are more aligned now.
To not deliver what Bilic wanted at that time, and he believed that would have got us playoff football, it was a recipe for disaster, really. Yeah. And I think Spence and Livermore were the two for me, which, we could talk about a striker. I think Cameron Archer would have definitely been an upgrade. But that right-back spot at the time, and Livermore, because obviously we didn't have Ryan Andrews at that point, but Spence and Livermore were two players that you felt they know the Championship inside out. They are an upgrade in our positions. Surely they would have improved the team, Sam. This is I mean, when you look at it like that, you just can't imagine what the thinking was there.
definitely. It's all hindsight, but without doubt, the team would have been so much stronger. And I mean, you even said before the stream, we both agreed that we might have even snuck playoffs. I know it's all hypothetical, and there were so many problems last season in terms of attitude and players downing tools, but that would have given us a much, much better chance, I think. And also having Musa Sissoko in there, I wasn't the biggest fan of Musa when he was last here, but I think for the championship, I think he would have been really good for us. Like you say, Cameron Archer would have been fantastic. I think the only ones that I do quite like are those Mogi Bayat signing, but I still think the Hoot signing was a really, really good signing. I thought that was quite clever. But other than that, it just looked like an absolute shambles all over the shop.
Do you know what? Just to segue that onto this season then, Sam, I guess the one thing that I'm taking away from this read from Andrew, which is a great read, and I really do recommend you sign up to the Watford Observer. This isn't Andrew hasn't asked me to say this at all, but I pay for the subscription, and honestly, the quality of the articles are so good. So I definitely would recommend you having to think about signing up to the subscription on the Watford Observer. But the one thing I'm taking away from this, Sam, is that I hope that lessons have been learned, because I don't think we're far away this season from having a well-rounded squad. Maybe a cover for Livermore is where I think we could upgrade in someone a little bit more mobile if he does get injured. The one player maybe that looks like an obvious fit is Kamara, who was at Huddersfield last season, who's now at Udinese. Maybe a case of either shipping Bio or Healy out to free up a striker spot to then recruit someone, and then even Imran Loser maybe to move on. So what would you like to see? Because we're not far away from January now. So where do you think we need to be upgrading in the squad, or if anywhere?
God, yeah, it's difficult. I mean, it's come around so fast, hasn't it? We're just over we're probably about 6 weeks away from the window opening, which is it's just mental. And I hope, first of all, I just hope that, like you say, lessons have been learned and there's a clear strategy in place going into the window this time around. Where do I think we need to upgrade? Probably a striker. I think we need to score more goals ultimately. Saying that off the back of a 5-0 win against Rotherham, a really poor Rotherham side. But I think probably get Healy out on loan and bring in another striker. A winger, I think we could do with, an central midfielder as well. And I think that for January, I think would be the most important areas to fill for now at least.
Sure, Sam. Just to wrap up this quick video / pod, and if you are watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And of course, if you're listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, your podcast platform, leave us a review. It massively does help us out. So Sam, looking ahead to tomorrow, you're off to the King Power. We haven't got a great record there.
No,
by any stretch.
no, we don't. It's all about the good day out tomorrow and hoping that Watford could surprise us. Look, we're in a really good run of form at the moment. I think Leicester have lost their last couple and they would have had more internationals going out than us. So who knows what can happen. Enzo Maresca will be desperate, particularly after meeting Charlie Cesara the other week to get the win over Watford as well. So yeah, really big game tomorrow. Looking forward to it. I was there a couple of years ago in the snow when Emmanuel Dennis scored and no one could see that ball go into the back of the net just because you could just see white all over the pitch. And then Dennis going off and celebrating. So hoping for better weather tomorrow and hopefully a better result as well.
Same here. I honestly couldn't believe that game didn't get called off. That was ridiculous. It was at one point, the ball was barely even moving.
Yeah, it was prime Barclays, mate.
It's the streets won't forget that season from Emmanuel Dennis. Do you know what? Just to wrap up, I was on a preview with Leicester Fan TV just before we came on air, and it was interesting what he was saying. So obviously Leicester on the back of 2 defeats in a row, and they came into the international break, and he said it was a good time because he felt that they got found out a little bit. He said to me, if Watford play on the front foot, they play attacking, aggressive football, he thinks they'll beat his words. He thinks that we'll beat Leicester. He says if we sit off and look to and kind of let Leicester keep possession and let them dominate, he thinks there's only one way. So the question is, Sam, the way Ishmael's been playing is probably leaning more towards us sitting off, if I had to guess, rather than playing on the front foot because of that Leicester away game, Leeds away game, beg my pardon, where we got absolutely torn to shreds and we tried to play that sort of expansive football and it didn't work. So do you think Ishmael will carry on with the way we're playing despite Leicester maybe favouring us sitting off them?
I think he's going to try and keep it tight. To be honest with you, even though I think we could probably get at Leicester. I think they have looked a bit vulnerable defensively in the last few weeks. Um, I think he would have. He's going to look at that Leeds game, like you mentioned there, and even Middlesbrough at home to an extent, and think that if this Watford team try and open up too much against the team of that quality, that level of quality, we will get torn to shreds ultimately. So I think he will learn from that, and I think if we win tomorrow, we'll be nicking it 1-0 more than anything else. To be honest with you,
Do you think we'll win?
no, I want to say yes because something in me is confident, which is never good with Watford. I could see us getting a point. To be fair, I'd say 1-1. I think.
So I went 2-1 Leicester, but I'd definitely take a point. I'd definitely take a point. Make sure you do check out our Sunday review show, which will be on audio and video. So check that out, and we'll do a deep dive of the game. Sam, what a pleasure. Huge congrats to Ryan Andrews. Make sure you check out Andrew's article. The link will be in the description below, but it's on the Watford Observer if you haven't read it already. And we'll be back on Sunday for another video. Sam, what a pleasure. Take care, and up the Hornets. You want.